Afternoon. Hi, everybody. Welcome. So nice to see everyone here. Today is June 17th. It's now 1:30, and I'd like to call the meeting to order. We're here at the Town of Highland Beach Town Commission meeting. If we could have the roll call, please.
Commissioner Janowski,
Present.
Commissioner Goldberg,
Present.
Commissioner Peters,
Present.
Vice Mayor Stern,
Present.
Mayor Moore,
Present.
Town Manager Labadie,
Present.
and Town Attorney Rubin.
Present.
Thank you.
If we could all rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
of the United States of America to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
No invocation today? Or not? No.
Nope.
Okay, all right. Just want to make sure. And are there any changes to the agenda?
Mayor, I would propose we move 11A to 6B, and then 6B becomes 6C, and 6C becomes 6D.
Any other suggested changes? If everyone's okay with it, if we could have a motion, please.
Yes, motion to move the agenda in accordance with
Marshall's request
Marshall.
as amended.
Marshall's plan, yeah.
Perfect. Second, anyone to second?
Second it.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, the first item is the Fire Safety Recognition Award. And who will be presenting that?
Fire Department.
Okay, thank you.
Afternoon, everybody. How's everybody doing today?
Good, how are you?
Good, good.
Pretty good. How are you?
How's it going? So, anyway, we're here because we're happy. We've been in business for about a year, as y'all know. We started working on inspecting the buildings. Joe Brooks, who was leading that up. Inspector Brooks has been doing a great job with that. And we have now, we got there a little while ago, but we're finally able to show some recognition to one of our buildings, the first one to get done. And ironically, it's where Mayor Hillman used to live. So the Dalton was our first building to complete everything they needed to do from our inspection program. And we wanted to present them with an award. Jane Benjamin, who's seated, you guys can come on up, is the property manager there. She's been doing a great job getting this done. Mike, who's with her, is one of the board members. And so we came up with a fire safe building certificate, which is this. And this is the first one we're going to present. We have probably another, Joe could probably clue us a little better, but another 5 or 6 buildings that are right there. And this is what we plan to do, is issue the certificates to the buildings that comply with the program. So. you
Oh,
guys can come up.
congratulations. That's
Thank you very
excellent.
much.
Yeah, congratulations.
Nice. Here's the box.
Oh,
Okay,
here it is.
okay.
Here, fire safety.
Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's really excellent. I know it has been a challenge to get these buildings that, because we haven't had the rigor that we had in the past that we do now. So that's really a huge congratulations to you, and want to recognize the effort that you all have done. So it's fantastic news, and it's for the safety of all the residents. So that's excellent. Yeah, that I know that. I think you reached out to me early on, yeah, so that really is impressive, and it's fitting that it's Mayor Hillman's building. Isn't that cool? Very cool. Yes, his legacy continues. Really excellent. Okay, moving on to item 6B, which is the resolution number 2025-016, a resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Highland Beach, Florida, authorizing the mayor to execute amendment number 10 to the State of Florida Department of Transportation District 4 Landscape Inclusive Memorandum of Agreement on behalf of the town, providing for conflicts and providing for an effective date. Hey, Ingrid.
Hello, good afternoon. For the record, Ingrid Allen, Town Planner.
So as indicated, this is an amendment number 10 to the Florida Department of Transportation's Landscape Inclusive Memorandum of Agreement. This specific agreement is regarding landscape improvements on State Road A1A. On page 67 of your packets, I provided you the 9 previous amendments. So you'll see a table there with the location of each of those amendments, the corresponding FDOT permit, and the execution date of the amendment. So the town, in the amended agreement, you'll see that the town is required to maintain additional landscape improvements. However, and I've mentioned this with all the other memorandum amendments that you've seen, section 28-10A of the town code requires that the property owner maintain all landscaping, even that landscaping that is adjacent to the public right-of-way. And we provided the applicant, if the amendment is approved today by the commission, will go ahead and provide the property owner with a hold harmless. So on March 13th of 2025, the planning board granted an amendment to a previously approved major modification to an existing building. That was a development order number 24-0002. For this request, they were adding a 21 square foot balcony to the west side of the residence and a landscaping plan. Now, prior to this March 13, 2025 approval, they went before the planning board on April 11th, 2024, and they were doing, adding some additional square footage to the building. They were changing the roof line, they were changing facade, some of the facade, and all that triggered a major modification. Now, at that April meeting, they were not proposing any landscaping improvements to the right-of-way, but then that changed, and that's totally fine, and that's what they went before the planning board on March 13th for. Now, at the March 13th meeting, and I indicate this on page 68 of your packets, at the time of the meeting, their FDOT approval for landscaping in the right-of-way was pending. And I did talk to Mr. Labadie about it. He gave me the authorization to bring the request to the planning board and put some conditions of approval, right? First condition, again, it's in your staff report, that they get FDOT approval and that they come before the commission to get an approval of this amendment to the maintenance agreement. So on May 23rd of 2025, just a week or two ago, FDOT provided me with that amendment number 10, which starts on page, let's see, I think it's on 74 of your packet. So that actual amendment paperwork actually comes from FDOT. So the landscaping they propose on that FDOT application, it does match the landscaping in the right-of-way that the planning board approved on March 13th. So I made sure everything matches. So with that said, I'm happy to address any questions. We also have the applicant's authorized agent here to address any questions that you may have as well.
Anybody have any
I
questions?
do not have any questions.
No. No. Planning board approved
Thank
it.
you.
FDOT approved it.
Mhm.
The project is looking amazing. So looks like we're all in consensus of approving.
Ready
Yes.
for a motion?
Yep. Yes,
Mhm.
please.
I move to approve resolution number 2025-16.
Second.
Do I need to ask for public?
David?
Commissioner Goldberg,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stern,
Yes.
Commissioner Peters,
Yes.
and Commissioner Chanofsky,
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you very much for attending. Thank
you.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
It's a great budget. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you. The project is
Now, what do we-
looking incredible.
I bet that was A. I don't know what was B.
Okay, item
C.
6C,
Six.
resolution number, which was formerly 6B,
Yeah. Mhm.
now is 6C. Resolution number 2025-015, a resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Highland Beach, Florida, ratifying the selection, appointments, and term of office of members of the planning board and providing for an effective date. We have 3 candidates for 1 vacancy. So the first candidate we have is Greg Bobby. If you could please come to the podium and state where you live and a few things about yourself.
Thank you, Mayor Moore. Greg Bobby, 1092 Bellito Drive, Highland Beach, Florida. Give you a little background on me and why I'm applying for this. Educated as a civil engineer, former chair of the FAB, former vice mayor, former original chair of the Highland Beach Police Foundation. So I've kind of touched it all. I was part of the working group to modernize the town's marine accessory ordinances when I was the vice mayor. So I got to spend a lot of time with Ingrid Allen and Jeff Remus and the marine consultant, Mike Jenkins. I used to own a marine construction company, so I'm familiar with marine products. Why am I applying? My good friend and neighbor, Roger Brown, is on the planning board, and I think he's done a really tremendous job with marine construction, marine ordinances, single-family home representation, but he's coming off later this year. So I thought it'd be a good time to throw my hat in the ring and see if I could help fill the spot. I certainly have the single-family home knowledge, the marine construction knowledge, and I'm hoping to fill that void. I'm here to serve. So if it works for you guys, it works for me.
So we'll go through each of the commissioners to have an opportunity to ask you a question. Commissioner Shadowmasi.
I'm familiar with the history. I believe the candidate is extremely well qualified. I'm sorry to hear that Roger Brown's coming off because he's an outstanding person to work with. I just came up the planning board myself, and obviously you have my support.
Thank you.
And it's always, you know, I have such, the town has such gratitude for your service. And I note that in the vetting, it was significant input and masterful job. I mean, that's the, should be the title, you know, in every aspect of your contribution to the town. So I thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, go back. Greg, I know you gave me a lot of information on the marine studies when it was going in there. So, and I like that you're a resident single family home and you're replacing and you represent the home. So, yeah, I support you.
Thank you.
Hi, thanks for applying. We go back a long ways. I was the vice chair in the FAB and he did a phenomenal job and a great job as the vice mayor. And thank you for applying. We support you. Thanks.
We also have a nice long history. I attribute me being on the commission to you, of course. Thank you for all your guidance. You obviously have quite a bit of knowledge about how all this all runs, and I'm very grateful to your volunteerism and all the work that you've put in. I also think it's really important to have at least one single-family homeowner on the board. We have 3 very qualified candidates, but I think for me, what sets it apart is how important it is to have at least one single-family homeowner on the board. I also noticed the chair also of all 3 very qualified candidates also helped us out by making a recommendation as well. So I hope the other 2 also continued their volunteerism. It's not any kind of poor reflection on anyone else. It's more that number 1, you're excellent. And number 2, you are a single family homeowner. So I think we all are in consensus. Well, I guess we need to talk to each of the other candidates, but thank you very much for stepping forward. And let's hear from the other 2.
Thank you. And I'm very touched by all of your comments. Thank you very much. It means a lot.
Yeah, good. The next is, I think, Barry Donaldson. Are you the next candidate? Yeah, Barry, come on up. Say where you.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the commission, Barry Donaldson, 3700 South Ocean Boulevard, Highland Beach. Appreciate the opportunity to pursue an appointment on the board. I have had the pleasure of serving previously on the board of Rules and Appeals, the Planning Board, and had a short stint as a commissioner. Also worked hard on some of the last rounds of resolutions for the city relating to charter changes. And have greatly enjoyed living here for the past 22 years in Highland Beach. So it's always good to have an opportunity to step forward and have a chance to participate again.
Thank you, Barry. You want to go ahead, Commissioner Chudmosky, with your comments?
You know, it always comes down to the amount of time someone has. And I think volunteerism is at a shortage right now, and it's great to have candidates like yourself applying for this. My question is this: what are you doing now in staying active?
What am I doing to stay busy?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, after my last round of endeavors with the city, I had to go back and pay attention to my business. I was extremely busy. So finally have found a good window of opportunity to engage with the community. So the timing was good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So very much. I'm so very impressed with everything that you've done and your commitment to our town. It continues. A broad experience. Thank you so much for coming up today.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, Barry, thank you for all your volunteer work. I know you, and I hope you keep on trying again if you don't get the position for another board. Thank you.
Barry, thank you. You did a terrific job in all those other positions and commissioner and so forth, and really appreciate you applying for this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for your volunteerism. And the other thing I want to mention, Barry designed the entry,
That's right.
the entry signs, the very beautiful entry signs that won an overwhelming amount of votes, more votes than any of us up here obtained to become commissioner. So I want to put another plug in for that. I think the signs turned out fabulous. I can't wait till the one on the north end gets installed. And it really, I thought it captured all the facets that we want, a more contemporary sign, a little bit of the blue, what we're about, basically the understated elegance that we were really going for. So really appreciate your time and effort in submitting that winning sign design. I do think all the work that you've done has really been for the benefit of the town, and we really appreciate it. So yeah, the next time there's an opening, please come forward. And
Regarding the sign, congratulations actually to the commission. I mean, this was a wonderful community building exercise. The response from the community was incredible. You had so many applicants. It was so much fun to go through them and see the ideas and the inspiration behind them. I hope you do more of that in the future. It was really, really exciting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So
Yeah,
congratulations to you guys on that.
thank you.
Okay.
And we hope to see you again soon.
Yes, certainly.
Up there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. And the next applicant, Robert LaSorsa. Do you want to come up?
How you doing?
Hello.
Robert LaSorsa, 1109 Bel Air Drive. This is for one position, correct?
It is.
Save everyone a bunch of time. I check all the boxes, but I'm putting that in. I'm happy what the commission does for this town. I like our city attorney even. Everything's going in the right direction. I've been here 26 years and more. Keep it up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you for volunteering
Thank
and,
you,
and
yes.
please consider a future a vacancy.
He's on the board already, I think.
And he's
He's
currently on the
he's
code.
con-
enforcement.
Yeah,
Board.
right,
Yeah.
right. So excellent, excellent. Great people in this town. So if we could have a motion, please. to-
Yes, I move to approve resolution number 2025-15.
I second it.
Appointing Greg Babby
Yeah,
to the
yeah,
appointment.
Right. Thank you. I second
Greg
it.
Babji.
And
I second.
Commissioner Peters second. And we'll have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Goldberg,
Yes,
Commissioner Peters,
Yes.
Commissioner Chinopsky,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stern,
Yes.
and Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Congratulations and welcome to another appointment with the town of Highland Beach. Yeah, it's great to have you back. We're in good hands for sure.
Bill Barry. would-
Yes, and of course, we hope Barry considers a position as it comes up. Absolutely. Item 6D, the preliminary fiscal year 2026 operating budget presentation. You're up.
So our exciting time of year, putting logs in the room vacates, no. So we're excited. Again, I like to preface, and I'm proudly to do it again for the 7th time, that our financial health continues to remain strong. It lays the foundation for a bright and prosperous future for our three miles of paradise. Also, it aligns with a couple other documents. So this is kind of a living document. It's not just a dead document. So it goes with our strategic priorities plan. So basically it addresses and funds projects and initiatives around organizational excellence, public infrastructure and resiliency, community safety, community enrichment and sustainability. It also ties in, if we recall back from May, our 5-year forecast. So it really builds on that. And then it also is a true reflection of our values as we move forward as a community. So David and I are excited. This is our favorite time of year where we get to go through the budget, present to you. But again, it continues to be strong. So rest assured tonight, when you go to sleep and you're thinking about the budget like I do every day, we're okay. We're in a strong financial condition. And what you're going to see, the biggest part of our strategic priorities that are going to be addressed this year is capital. So when David goes through this and we talk about special projects, special initiatives, things that we're trying to accomplish, it's heavy on the capital side. And when we get into some of those projects, I'll preface that we're really working on timing. So some things that are budgeted this year and some things that are budgeted next year, the timing is so close for that late summer, early fall, that we may have to do some budget amendments and budget adjustments to reflect that based on when the design is done, when we hit the streets to bid things, bids come in and we award. So there's some timing issues. We'll try to get around that. But again, we're addressing, as we remember back from May and that 5-year forecast, we are hitting those major capital projects. Marine dock facility, which I'm glad to say our resident Peggy got us in the budget again. If you could believe this, that woman is amazing up there. So they couldn't get a budget down until last night at 11:19, but our appropriation made it through the entire process. And we got dollars to assist us in building that marine dock facility. So kudos to her and her team for bringing that through for us yet again. So we got another appropriation, time and effort and energy is well spent in keeping Highland Beach front and center. We're also talking about the police security center. We're going to be able to address that. Basically the new entrance in the security center, getting those things in place. The old fire station, the ability to get those things in, and then the sanitary sewer lining project. All those are basically concurrent as we speak. Some are a little bit more advanced in design. Some are ready for contracts, waiting for Len on those. So it's really the timing. And with the sanitary sewer lining, remember, FDOT's got to get out of our way. They were supposed to be done at the end of May. They're looking like maybe August is what Pat's saying. So we're still doing our project. So we'll start on the side streets and work our way out, but some of the timing on those issues are a little bit difficult. And then the Bellito Bridge, for the Bellito folks in here, we haven't forgot it. We just got done with the engineering. We spec'd it out. Everything's in place to fix the structure and the new cap on the bridge and repaving it. So that's going to also happen this year. So a lot of capital is what you're going to hear about in here, and also maintaining operations. We're not losing sight of that. Our excellence as it relates to public safety, finance, the clerk's office, the managers, the library, all that stuff is funded. Clean water, award-winning water, in case Pat's in here, he always wants me to make sure I mention Highland Beach's award-winning water. So all those things are funded and maintained, but capital is the main driving force. And with that, David, I'll stop talking and we can hear from you.
No. Thank you. Yeah, when I was here in April and I did the 5-year, I just looked back and if you recall, my 5-year plan, I wanted to kind of stretch out some capital projects, right? I had our capital project kind of going over 3 years, and then I indexed the cost of today's dollars. If we did a project in year 3, that's going to cost about 7% more and things like that. And so, but in reality, we're tackling a lot of capital projects. You can see here, we just got back. So what starts this budget season off is when the property appraiser gives us our initial valuation. And you can see there that it came in at 6.7% increase in property values. We had anticipated a 5% increase. And I have a chart in here that kind of shows the history. And we'll go through there. But as Marshall said, this year for 2026 is going to be about capital, which we actually think that, no, let's tackle as much capital as possible to shorten any risk about the future, right? We have the reserves, we have the dollars.
You were successful at building the beautiful fire department. So let's keep that momentum going. Yes.
David, when Marshall says capital, are we talking about raising capital?
No. I'm sorry. Capital improvements.
Improvements, okay.
The town has all these assets that it's responsible for. When the town buys something, a piece of land, a park or whatever, it has to maintain those. And you've all been to other communities where those assets don't get maintained very well. Highland Beach is obviously the exception to that
Thank
rule in everything. So anyway, so you can see here, right? So we're one of our goal, and this is our third year in trying to get to achieve that goal of maintaining our current millage at 3.5875. Okay. We're going to try to tackle, as Marshall said, the timing of these things is going to be different, right? But we're going to go ahead and put it in the budget now. We're not going to be spending any additional funds in interest expense. And so we're going to try to tackle these all on ourselves. Later on, keep in mind, this is a preliminary, right? We're going to go through the next several months. We're going to go through and we're going to get a little bit clearer vision, right? Our first clear vision was what the property appraiser came back with, right? And then we made some assumptions. We made some assumptions here of health insurance, staffing, increase. We have a general insurance for property, so we still have some things that we need to get clear about before we hit September, right? But we need to go ahead and get a budget in process now. So these right here are the preliminary overviews. If we look here, these right here are your great accomplishments that you as a commission and the town have successfully went through, right? The fire department, as we just talked about, we're with the marine accessory structures, the water treatment upgrade and replacement, Lift Station 1, the Bell Lido Bridge repair, as Marshall just said, with the engineering, right? A lot of these capital projects start with engineering, right? We got to know what we're working with.
David, can you go back one slide?
Absolutely, sir.
Okay. What are you basing your assumptions on as far as a 10% health and 5% compensation based on history?
Yeah. So, most of our compensation, as far as most of our labor dollars, the cost thereof is with union contracts. Not all of our employees are that, mainly in public safety. So we know where those are at, right? And so basically what we're looking at is okay, we have some public safety that we know what their next round, what their next step plan is going to be. And so we bake that in, and then you have other non-union employees in an effort to be fair, what we thought their compensation would be. We're anticipating, recall now that inflation just kind of came down, right? We were in the 10% there, right? Now it's starting to come down. We're assuming about a 3.7% increase in general inflation, especially in this area. You can't compare the rest of the world or the rest of the United States to this area. They have their own consumer price index for the pricing in this area. So we kind of look at historical, we take into consideration the consumer price index, and also other surrounding communities we also look at.
What about health?
I'm sorry?
Health. How did you?
Health.
how did you come
Yeah.
up with
Well,
10%?
health insurance, health insurance is interesting, right? Because some years it'll go up, 15%. Other years, believe it or not, it'll be flatline, right? Health insurance is obviously one of those costs that are tremendous that, by the way, you provide 100% of that cost. And that's phenomenal. What that does is that attracts the right people. I always tell people all the time outside of here, if someone voluntarily leaves the fire department or whatever, I mean, I don't know where they're going to go. And so you guys provide every benefit at the best. Your goal of being a tier 1 employer to attract the best help for your residents continues, and that continues with health insurance as well. So,
And that's what we've been seeing. So last year, out of the last 4 running years, last year was the first year where we saw really an increase. If we recall, we had a couple 0 years and we had 1 decrease year.
Yep.
Last year, we were around 7%,
Yep.
6 3/4, 7% increase. So we're imagining we picked 10 to be safe. We'll probably be that 7 to 10% is what we're guessing.
Right.
Mark, our broker, will start seeing and having those conversations next month with all of the providers to see, how it shakes out. But we've been doing pretty well of maintaining those cost structure. And then health, property insurance, right?
Yep.
Reinsurance market got a little bit better. We didn't get hit with sovereign immunity. Remember, I was like really nervous that they were going to change that sovereign immunity cap. That did not get changed. So that's going to keep us from growing around 3% of just legislative increase. We're not going to experience that. So property insurance should come down a little bit. Replacement cost is driving up some of that. But workers' comp and stuff will tweak a little bit now that we truly haven't become a full service community with 2 public safety branches. That usually hits workers' comp a little bit.
Right. Right. And these right here, at this time, we look at historical 2 to 3 years of actual, right? We look at our first 6 months of actual data, what we have for our revenues and our expenditures, right? And then what we do is we kind of anticipate. I've always told you, I want to be wrong on the right side, right? I want to understate your revenue and overstate your expenditures, right? And so, but certain items, unfortunately, during the timing, we have to make these assumptions. For now, this is preliminary, and we're bringing it to you to make sure that we are all locked, that staff is in step with what the commission wants to do. It's always that way. This is staff's idea, and this is our first opportunity to present it to you. And so that's what a preliminary budget is. And so, as we look, we said, here are your accomplishments. And this time next year, you'll have even more accomplishments after this year is done with, as well as halfway through next year. But again, just a list of outstanding accomplishments so far. Here, if you recall, this was our strategic projects and initiatives, right? You went through, and these are things that you planned of all the list of strategic projects and initiatives that you wanted to do. You ranked them. You took the time and you ranked them. And this right here was your list. And that is always in our forefront, right? And so this is just a reminder that, hey, during the budget season, we always keep this in mind, okay, of what our strategic initiatives are. And some of those you'll see in here, the sanitary sewer lining, you'll see the old fire station, the real-time security center in the police department. You'll start to see these. As we talked about before, this is our goal, and it's been our goal. This right here, we're going on 3 years. I put this in here. We started that in 2023. Right. And our goal really, when we first did our first 5-year budget forecast, our goal, staff's goal, was to maintain that millage at 3.5875. And we've done that. Yes.
Yeah, so you say this is the 4th year at that level, right?
Yeah, right.
The 5th year was higher, so right? It's actually a reduction. So
Right.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's almost even better story. It's,
Yeah.
not only have we kept it steady, but 5 years ago, we actually did drop it a bit. And that was because
Yes,
of the elimination of some of the debt that
Yeah.
we had, right?
Yes, thank you for reminding me that some of the water funds, and I'll show you, I have another chart in there. There used to be a time, and we'll remember back in the day, when the general fund had to contribute money, right, to the water fund, because that one there still wasn't out of the nest yet. We're still trying to get it on its feet and things like that. And so we're still.
And I don't know if I'm recalling correctly, but I think even the history before that was either we held steady or it's been dropped. So I don't think we've raised the millage for
The first year we had it was a rough budget go in October of 18. I had come in late September. And you guys not you guys, but the commission at that time was forced to just throw money into the budget because no one knew where anything was because of all the departures. So that budget year ran a little bit hot, around 3.8, I believe. So we brought it down that
So
3/10, and then we just held it flat. And again, the idea was on good years, a little bit of money will go into the rainy fund. for the years where our costs, now that we have public safety, which again, costs continue to escalate, we have dollars to bridge gaps. So we don't have to fluctuate that millage rate year in, year out and go through that exercise.
Right.
It's just to hold it, be steady, be calm, be consistent
Right.
is kind of our goal.
So since 2018, it's either been drops
Yes.
or steady, which
Yes.
I think is very good news.
No, absolutely. And again, you know, I think one of these charts here.
Third lowest in Palm Beach County.
And
I'm
Yeah.
just saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
third low.
Yeah.
Right. But you'll see here, this right here is what our millage used to be. This is when we talk about millage, we talk about the value of a tax dollar and how that gets allocated, right? We used to have operating down here, right? If you recall, that was no fire department. That was, well, we had a fire department, we just outsourced that, right? And this was the amount that we had to send to the water fund for their debt service, right? And so we gradually, as you can see that our total millage, you're absolutely right, Madam Mayor, our total millage went down and now we're trying to stay safe. Right here, what you're seeing, yep, okay, our operations is relatively the same. There's a minor increase there because your property values have increased again at 6%. One more slide and I'll get to that. And here is your fire department debt service millage, right? As property values go up, debt service millage goes down. And so how much is needed to cover that? And so that's what that chart there represents. Let me go to the next one here. All right, this is what I wanted to talk about, right? This right here was the steep increase, right? The steepness of what was happening with property values, double digits. Prior, right, it was 4%, 2%, 3%, right? Changes in property value. Then we went up right here, this right here. I mean, you went up 10% here, over 10% here. You went up another 13% here in property values. What I like about what's happening, and at my convention, the GFOA, the Government Finance Association, it's actually happening right now in Hollywood. When I talked to the Palm Beach County property appraiser, yeah, they're happy that it's not a drop off the cliff, right? Let's just everyone settle in, right? And so this is actually a good thing. So you can see where it's not one of those scary roller coasters where you reach the top and then you just dump, but right here. And you know what? We're probably anticipating in the future years, this right here to kind of straight line. That's the best case scenario. You know, your area is unique. You constantly update it. Your commission is constantly reinvesting its funds, its excess funds, into the assets that it has. And that's what we'll currently show. Your full service, full police, full fire, water, sewer, your own library. It's a miracle. And it's a beautiful thing. But anyway, you know, over the years from 2020 to 2026 in this budget, right? 7.5%, was the average annual increase. When you take all these numbers here, that's what it's doing.
You know, David, this totally is supported by what Ingrid handed out to us by Inspire. Everything that they say in their report actually goes along well with what we see happening on your charts.
Yeah.
I mean, they really sync out well.
Yeah, right. What I like about this, and every year before budget season, that's why we sit there and we go, I wonder what the property appraiser is going to come back with, right? Because think about it, the property appraiser's function is to be independent, right? And so it's working. And so they're supposed to be independent, give us what the evaluations are, and then hand that down to us. So that's why when Marshall and I talk, we're always like, wow, I wonder what this number here is going to come back to. And here's the reason why that number is important. 73%, right? Of our general fund, right? Revenue comes in here. But do you know why this one works? Most other communities are split. 25% might be property taxes and this, they might get a lot of gasoline tax and they might get a lot of sales tax, right? We don't have that in this island. The reason why is because this is the perfect setup and the perfect model for this area. And here's the reason why. 73% of the revenue coming in is from the users, i.e. the community who are using the services that the town is providing, right? And so at the end of the day, this is the proper mix. Sure, we get a little bit of funds from the state of Florida, some franchise fees, right? A little bit of charges for services, right? You'll see this year here, we're pulling money into, we're gonna pull money out of our reserves to cover some of the capital as we discussed in our 5-year plan. And so, but you can see there, that's the mix of it. Yeah. Yeah. So that's where all your revenue comes in for the general fund now. So now we'll go into, so now let's look at this right here is the changes. So these right here are all the individual line items, right? So what we're looking at is we're looking at if 2025 budget was about $18.5 million, we're looking at about a proposed budget here, preliminary budget of about $19.5 million, or about a 5.6% increase, right? Think about it. Inflation, right, is going to be at about 3.7%. Okay, right now in this area. And so we're looking and we're saying, okay, right now we're anticipating that our revenue is going to grow probably about a little bit over 5%. Again, very conservative, you know, and so you can see there the bottom line there, we're going to pull more money in from our appropriation from reserves. And the reason why is because we want to now start focusing on capital improvements, maintaining the assets that the town currently has. So that's our goal.
Does that, excuse me, does that include the anticipated work to be done in the old firehouse?
Yes. Yeah.
Is that sufficient amount?
Yeah. Yeah, you'll see it. This right here is the revenue to cover that.
Okay.
So this right here is the revenue. Now, when we talk about the expense side, right? When you talk about a lot of the expense side, see that capital outlay? See, that's where those dollars are right there, right? $2.6 million is for the marine,
The dock.
dock, thank you, and working on the new fire station. Now, remember, we haven't gotten to the sewer lining. The reason why is because sewer lining, that's in another fund, right? That's in the water and sewer fund, right? Statutorily, we have to keep these funds separate. And so that's why you see that. But you can see that of our major expenses, you have salaries and related right here, right? You have operating expenses. There's capital outlay. You can see debt service is about the same. You can see that we've added additional dollars here to contingency. And you can also see that, you remember in the old days, we used to take, this right here is a very good example. When you see appropriation to reserves, that means we're taking that money and we're going to keep it safe. It's going to the reserves, right? And so at the end of the day, this right here, you'll see that instead of having excess reserves, we're going to be pulling money from that. So, and we'll see that because the reason why is because we're on the expenditure side. But here's a dollar, right? This right here shows you how we're stretching it. You know, in some towns it's $1, in yours it's 100. You know, we use the 100 here. And so, right, you can see what percentage here is going to salaries related, pension, payroll taxes, health insurance, all that other stuff. And then you can see how much larger the dollar here is for your capital needs for maintaining your items here.
So I have a quick question about this one. So appropriations to reserves, the budgeted amount was 635,000.
Right.
But you're thinking it'll be 200,000 more? Like,
No. So what we're thinking is we're thinking that we're going to take any excess that we have this year and we're going to put it into capital improvement. See how big the capital improvement is now? $2.6 million here.
No, but I'm just saying, this time a year ago, you were thinking what was going to be put in the piggy bank to save was
Right.
635,000.
So we're
but-
still holding, I'll jump in, David.
Go
We're still holding, we have not touched those dollars
The
in this
630
current
the
fiscal year.
635.
We have not
But
needed
but I
to
guess
get,
what I'm saying is it's turned into 833 instead of 635. So didn't it go up 200,000?
David's estimating there's going to be some extra spillover
Yeah,
beyond
yeah.
what we currently have in there. So if I go into the GL, into the general ledger, and I do it, we have not touched that line item at 636. David's projected out, if we keep on the same track,
Right.
we're actually going to be more money into that. So when you go to next year where we have to take out of the checking account to cover the capital,
Right.
we have it.
I'm just saying
Yep.
that's a good thing,
Yeah,
that
oh,
it
yeah,
it turned
yeah.
out to be $200,000 more than what we anticipated a year ago
Absolutely.
is what we were able to set
Absolutely.
aside.
Mhm.
And
Absolutely.
I just want to point it out. It was more than what we expected
Yeah.
a year
no,
ago.
no, absolutely. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
$200,000
yeah.
more.
Oh, yeah. Between the $600,000 and the $800,000 here. Yeah.
Exactly.
No.
And is
Yeah,
that,
absolutely.
that I'm assuming is your best estimate
Yes.
today,
Yes.
that we will be able to set aside $200,000 more, based on last year's budget.
Yeah. You know, we're
Um,
talking about $18 million and $19 million. Right. No, you're absolutely right. To be able to squirrel away, you know, and again, that's why we have the contingency here sometimes too, right? We sit there and we go, hey, how do I make sure I err on the right side?
Mhm.
Right. And so you're absolutely right, madam.
And it's by, yeah, so it's by design, I think is what you're trying to say. And
Yes.
I think we all, at least so I guess I can only talk for myself. I support your conservative assumptions that you build into
Right.
the budget. And I guess the other thing I'd say is they're not like super excessive. I think the fact that it's $200,000 more on such a large budget
Right.
is an appropriate amount. I wouldn't want that to be $2 million more.
Right.
I think it is an appropriate amount. As we reflect on this, I would say that is an appropriate amount of conservatism. It
Yep.
isn't excessive.
Right.
But it is going in the right direction.
Yep.
So, and I'm glad that it's being put towards
David, that's
the
a
next.
safety net.
Yeah. Right.
It's a proposed safety net.
In reality, I'm only going to hit one of all the numbers that I'm showing you, right? And that's pretty much the ad valorem property dollars, because there's a calculation for that. I know what the property tax is coming. I know what the millage is going to be and things like that. And so that dollar there, you know, I don't know how much franchise fee dollars are coming in. I'm not sure about the Sands Hotel, you know, how many burgers they're gonna flip out that we're gonna get the sales tax dollars for or what have you. And so we look at historical, right? And we sit there and we go, all right, what's a conservative estimate? And so if you think about it, I only have a couple of levers, right? If you think about the town of Highland Beach, we only have a couple of levers of what we can pull. We can adjust the millage rate, right? That's a lever, i.e. taxes, right? We can adjust the lever for how much do we need to pull from reserves from our savings account. And to be honest with you, I love the fact that you don't have such huge barrels of money in your savings account that you're hoarding. We're planning on using that, right, in this fiscal year, just like we did with the fire department.
So if we go to the next slide, we'll talk about the fund balance.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. This is
Absolutely.
just 1 year's contribution to the
Right.
fund balance.
Yes.
So in the next slide, we'll see the cumulative
Right.
as to what we have.
Right, exactly. Right, exactly. And so at the end of the day, look at this. This right here is kind of cool. You've almost perfectly matched. Everything here is structured in a way that says, hey, we have almost a third of our dollars in disaster relief. We have almost a third of our dollars in budget stabilization. Listen, if everything goes south quickly, here's what I want you to think about. We still got budget stabilization funds in there, right? That we can pull from. So the idea is to have that safety net for look at here, if in the future years, this really starts to approach, you know, this level down here, you know what I mean? The property taxes, where do you get 75% of your money coming in? You get, or 73% property taxes.
So with the fund balance, I may propose or ask for you guys to consider, David, if we go to that fund,
Sorry.
you'll see the level of unassigned dollars. We may want to look at moving or modifying our policy to add a few more dollars to that fire sinking fund for future equipment purchases.
Yes.
Which is another safeguard about outer years. If we have a revenue issue, yet we need a new ladder truck or a new rescue, we have dollars kind of set aside to take a chunk of that. So I might, as we see what the healthcare costs propose, or ask you to consider, maybe we add some more funds, take it out of unassigned and assign it to that sinking fund, which is currently at 250. We'll look at those numbers. We could talk about where we want to move it, but it might be a good idea to take it from the unassigned to assign it to that fire sinking fund, just for those big apparatus purchases in the future.
Do you have an idea of a number in mind?
I'll probably say double it up. So go to
But yeah,
500
'cause 250
and then,
doesn't seem to be that great.
yeah, we want to get over a period of time. So within that life cycle, I'll talk with Chief a little bit of what we could see those life cycles. By the end of the life cycle, I'd like to be able to acquire a new rescue per se and have enough dollars for that, for the direct purchase, or close to that number.
Yeah.
I have a question. Historically, let's go back 5 years. Has these percentage allocations been the same?
Yeah.
They've been said the
About the same,
percentages
about
say, but the
30.
dollars have grown with the budget. So they increase.
Mhm.
Well, I think there's a little point of clarification there. So the budget stabilization and the disaster, okay, the budget stabilization is based on what the Government Accounting Office recommends, which is they publish a general guideline for municipalities as far as how much you should put towards budget stabilization. And budget stabilization is like to make sure you have enough cash to meet, you know, the timing of your expenditures, because you obviously get the bulk of your revenue at one point in time, but you have to, you know, pay your bills, you know, 12 months of the year. So the budget stabilization, and so you wrote percentage of total here.
Yep.
Is that percentage of total of the total fund balance or percentage of total of the budget?
No, percentage total of the fund balance.
Okay.
Up there.
So
Right.
you might want to put another column that is percentage of the budget, because the budget stabilization is supposed to be, I think it is a third of your annual budget, right? I
Yeah.
forget what the budget
Right.
policy says, but it's in there. The percentages are in this.
It's 16%
Okay,
of
of the
your budget.
budget,
right?
yes.
Now, it's 16% of operating expenses.
Right.
It's not capital. You know what I mean? Let me give you an example. We spent about $10 million, right? And just establishing the build, you know, $6 million for the building and whatnot. So behind you, right? So you wouldn't include that. So that's capital work, right? But we like to have budget stabilization and disaster recovery. Your resolution, you adopted a fund balance policy. That's what the board did. And what you did is you mirrored kind of what the Governmental Financial Advisory Committee says that, yeah, you should have that. And Madam Mayor is correct. We get most of our money early on, right, in the calendar year, right? And so, matter of fact, yesterday was the last of the dollars that we're going to get in for property taxes. That's it, you know? And so now that's why they say 2 to 3 months of backup dollars that you need to have, because that spigot is turned off, right? Now you got it ahead of time, but you still have to continue on. So you're absolutely
So maybe next time add a column that says percentage of budget, because just so that if we ever wanted to look at the policy, we could easily see that we are complying with the policy.
Yes.
And then the disaster recovery policy was also 16.7%. And that is based on an analysis of what our self-retention is for all our insurance policies. So, you know, you always have some sort of deductible or some sort of retention that when you have a claim that you have to pay for yourself, and then the rest insurance policies pick up. So we estimated that that disaster recovery bucket needed to be 16.7% of the operating. And then we have in there 250 goes to fire rescue, and I would support increasing that because I think that 250 was established a long time ago. And then unassigned is everything left over, which fluctuates, which we don't want to see that get too big, because then we've got money that's taxpayer money that's just sitting, not doing anything. But you want it to be enough because, you know, you always want to make sure. So that fluctuates, and that's kind of more what we think is the right amount there. And I think, 2.8 is probably okay. I don't think it's excessive. I don't think it's too low. I think that's probably about right and helps to give a cushion when maybe we don't get as much revenue that we're hoping for.
Right.
So yeah, I think the fund balance looks good.
Yep.
And I support all the capital projects that we're doing and paying cash for instead of financing because we have the money. And I think the benefit of that is it also helps us to save any kind of interest expense,
Yes.
which, really doesn't benefit us. So.
Yep, that's correct. Yeah. So this is where we draw from. You can see here, right? We're in 2025, right? We're anticipated that we're going to add some more money to our fund balance. But in this 2026, I'm anticipating that we're going to pull a little bit of money, right? From our fund balance, and i.e. when I say fund balance, that's also synonymous for reserves. That's what that represents.
David, the fund balance overall shouldn't affect our entire budget, though.
No.
Not at all.
No, fund balance is your, it's the equity, right? It's the revenues minus it's in business terms, it's your retained earnings,
Correct.
right? You know what I mean? What you've retained as a company and, you want to go buy this, buy that. And so we're just trying to, in government, we try to say that, hey, let's say, for example, you guys wanted to do something that was going to cost $3 million. Let's say you wanted to sidewalk light every square inch of your sidewalks, right? Well, okay, I would come to you and I'd say, well, we can't touch budget stabilization. We can't touch disaster recovery. We can't touch fire rescue, but I do have $2.8 million. Let's see what the project comes back at.
Mhm.
And again, what are those levers? Well, we can raise taxes, but we're not doing that, right? Or I can pull money in from reserves. That's another lever that I have, things like that. Or we can take out a loan.
Yeah, exactly. If we're ever faced with a real problem, I think the other nice thing about being in a strong cash position, if we are faced with some project where we do need significant more amount of monies and we all deemed it to be necessary, we're in a good position to borrow because
Yes.
we are not heavily leveraged right now.
Right. No.
And so we're, all our fund balances, are good. So I think we would, if we needed the money, we needed to borrow the money, we would be in a very good
Yes.
position
Yeah.
to borrow money.
And you need cash, right? Because God forbid a disaster recovery, you got to pay that out first and then hope 3 years later that FEMA may or may not reimburse you.
Well, our
right?
insurance policies are trying to,
Right.
and the broker has assured us many times that we will get paid. And she has explained to us like how they pay. So, and I don't think it would be 3 years. I think it would be a much shorter, based on what the broker says, it should be a much shorter time frame.
Sure.
And so that's what that disaster recovery, that's why we have that 2.8 million sitting there. It's both the
Yes.
deductibles
Right.
and the,
Right.
that type of thing.
So at the end of the day, we're done with the general fund, right? So the general fund's focus is capital improvements, right? About $2.6 million of capital improvements. The old fire station here, the police dock there, and some other little ancillary stuff. But that's what the budget is saying. Plus increases in normal operating expenditures. We're properly staffed, so we're not looking to hire a bunch of staff, which would obviously change that mix. But so that's the general fund, and this is where we're at. The next fund is our discretionary sales tax fund. Keep in mind, this gets ready to end December 31st, 2025, right? So that one there comes to an end. So historically, if we've gotten $450,000 or $415,000, I'm only recognizing about 25% of that because we'll get it all the way up until it ends, right? But after that, it goes to zero, right? The goal is to have that fund balance there go to zero. So we're going to be, again, spending the money. Here's what we're looking at: the Axiom cameras, the flock, a lot of police, public works. We're going to spend money on the crosswalk there, right? So these funds are designated for capital improvement projects, and we've spent it down. We've done a good job of spending that down. But this right here will go away this time next year. The building fund, right? The building fund continues to do well. 73% of the revenue comes from charges for services, right? Every time I think that I'm not going to see another building go under renovation, I'm always surprised every time I drive down here. But anyway, and it also continues to benefit smartly. Once again, you continue to benefit from your interlocal agreement with Gulfstream. And so again, what this one here is, you can see here, we're going to pull out a little bit more money from appropriation from reserves. I'm sorry, we're contributing more money into appropriation from reserves, but we've adjusted, as you'll see, we adjusted the expenditures here. So the biggest one is the transfers. Historically, since I've been here, I think that has increased, but we're doing an additional increase. This right here is a transfer from the building fund to the general fund to cover those overhead type of expenses, right? As our expenses grow, the building fund should continue to pay for its proportional share of those expenses. And that's kind of what we've done here. Right, they're going to do a little bit more capital outlay, and we'll go into that. But you can see here overall what your expenses. It has a nice balance. Look at the $100 bill there. It has a nice balance of personnel cost, operating expenditures, capital outlay, and transfers. Once again, from this side, it's very well balanced as far as the allocation goes, right? Of these funds, and so that's really what we're looking there.
So with this before we get to the fund balance, or if you want to just turn over to the fund balance, some of the things that we're going to be doing, again, you're going to be seeing the building department execute some capital projects, which they've never done in the past, never paid for any of the building they occupy, things of that nature. So they're going to be paying their fair share as a continued mantra here of some of the capital improvements we need on this site. It's their turn to contribute a little bit. Also with that, which you're not going to hear anywhere else in the county, we're going to lower building permit fees by 12.3%, Jeff. So about 12.3% reduction in our permit fees. So that's good. So we're going to reduce our fees, spend some of the capital out to kind of regain that balance, that healthy balance within operations. Another thing that David didn't allude to when you see that capital the transfer increase from 500 to 700. It's recognizing Gulfstream. They got to pay for us doing some of this, so that increase really is predominantly the Gulfstream starting to contribute to the general fund to manage that operation and for us to get some of those dollars back. So that's where you see that.
The 12.5% reduction, is that also applied to permits for
Gulfstream as well? Yep, across the board.
Oh, it's the same. Okay.
Yep, across the board. So you're not going to hear it anywhere else in the county that I could think of, Jeff. So we're reducing our fees 12.3%.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
What led to that idea?
Our fund balance got really healthy, and under the state legislator, we can only carry so much fund balance, and as much as we keep on thinking it's not going to be another great year, we have another great year. So it's time that we have to do this forced rebalancing. And it's also time that they pay for a little bit of capital. So I think that's going to put us back into that balance where we're statutorily compliant, transparent, and it's good for everybody.
Great.
Right. Yeah.
Very good.
And oh, by the way, this is why this fund is not included in the general fund, because statutorily, I got to keep those funds separate. The reason why is they said, hey, you can't carry, you can't just charge anything you want and build up your reserves in the building department fund. You have to go ahead and take that next step and reduce your fees, even though things might switch years down the road. But we have to remain compliant with the Florida statute. And so that's why we're sitting there. We're saying, okay, we're going to start bringing down some of this, right? We're going to start dropping this down. Right now, they got 513 days of operating cash available to them, right? They can run without getting another penny in, right? For 513 days, right? It used to be 624 days, right? Jeff's having a party over there. But at the end, but at the end of the day, it was a concerted effort of not only Marshall's management, but also Jeff's expertise as well as the interlocal agreement. And it's local government helping other local government. And it's another example of why Highland Beach is so successful.
Jeff runs a tight ship,
Yeah.
no parties.
It's like a Marine. You know. So anyway, so these right here are some of the things that we've identified that they can start paying their proportionate
There
share.
it is.
Yeah, right. So,
Roof, the entrance.
yeah, roof, chillers, other
Excellent.
computer upgrades and things like that, entrance. So, yeah. So these are the things that we've identified.
I think
Matt,
that's a really
let me
good
say-
use of funds.
Certainly.
Yes.
Lowering the fees
Yes.
and looking at capital.
Yep.
Are we comfortable that the balance is there?
Yeah.
We are.
Yes.
Okay.
100%.
Yeah.
We're comfortable.
Yeah.
I think for the first time, right, somebody reeled me back from, wanting to cut even further. Jeff was like, let's not go too far. I was like, well, maybe we look at 15%, but we might get to it too quick and then have to come back to you and say, hey, you got to raise the fees. And then all of a sudden you're like, I don't want to do that. So we're kind of balancing
Yep.
that and taking this first step. We think it's a good landing spot. Jeff did a lot of analysis and
Great.
looking back and projecting forward,
Yep.
inspection obligations, things of that nature.
Right.
Great.
Well, I think it's terrific.
Yeah.
It's terrific because the service is maintained.
Mhm.
Capital improvements are made and you're able to reduce the permits and the cost.
Yep. Yep.
Excellent.
Yep. And again, why is that? Because, 73% here comes from charges from services. That's how they bring in their money, right? And so we're sitting there, we're saying this is growing. This fund balance here is growing too rapidly, right? We need to start bringing this down. And so we looked at that and we said, yep, let's go ahead and do that. Our favorite, right? The water fund, right? And so overall, we know that it's going to have a 5% rate increase. Overall, we're going from a $4.9 million budget here to a $5.2 million budget here. We can see everything is, hey, charges for service. You use more water, right? You pay for your proportionate share. And so this one here is we're going to, again, reinvest money here into capital. But before we do that, let's just look at some data. So here, what I'm showing you here is on slide number 18, this is our usage. So this is gallons. By the way, I want you to remember that these numbers here have 3 more zeros to the right of it. All right. So we're talking, you're doing, 40, 60 million gallons. Okay. And so that plant there is pumping out a lot of water, probably one of the best water anywhere. Right.
Mhm.
And so what I've done, Excel has this program that is called it's called Forecaster. And so what I've done is I've just inputted all of this historical dollars here by these dates here, because really all I have is this line here. I have actual data up to billing 3. We have 6 billing cycles. Okay. So far we've done up through billing cycle 3. So the forecaster says, all right, this is where I think it's going to be based on seasonality. Well, you can see the seasonality here, right? Same thing with irrigation. But overall, when we compare the first 3 cycles of where we're at now compared to the first 3 cycles in 2024, you can see we're up almost 3%. All right. Just in gallons. Forget about the dollars we pay for. That's just, and oh, by the way, that has nothing to do with irrigation. Irrigation is down here. Same thing. Gallons, we're up almost 7.5%, comparing our first 3 cycles last year to the first 3 cycles this year. We're up. So, we encourage people to get new lawns and irrigate those. But anyway, sorry.
But conserve.
Right. Yes, but be conservative. Right. And so when we look at that, when we look at consumption data, right? And then we send that over to the dollars. Now we're looking at revenue, right? Now we're looking at revenue. A portion of your costs are fixed, right? When you get your bill, you have a fixed portion. And then you also have a usage component, which is capped, okay? It depends really because we have different rate structures for the predominantly condominiums that we have around here. We have we don't have a lot of single family resident homes, but we look at, and what I mean by capped is we count how many units are in each building. And so that's where we get those numbers from. But again, so revenue wise,
Wow.
we're up 11.5% the first 3 quarters. I'm sorry, the first 3 cycles of this year versus last year. And irrigation, we're up almost 16.5%. Now, some of that also comes from changing out meters, right? Because as I keep on, the mantra is in the water and sewer industry, you have to change out your meters. Technology's come a long way where the advancement of technology, you don't have to change them out so much. But remember, there used to be that little dial, right? The spinner would spin as water's going through and that little dial would change, right? Well, now they've become digital. Now there's a light source that doesn't wear down. The spinning unit in the meter doesn't wear out. So we don't have to change them out so often, but we do get more accuracy. And that's always important.
So aside from Jeff reducing the permits, we're not capping any other revenue streams.
That's true.
Okay, except for that.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And so the water fund's doing well. When we look at what their operating expenses are, we're going to bump up a little bit of their capital, right? They're going from $543,000 in this year to about $675,000. That's their capital. We have personnel. Personnel is we anticipate 5% for our raise in compensation plus insurance plus FRS. And so, but you can see here here's the mix. Here's personnel services, we're at about 30%. We saw this with the building fund, right? Operating has a nice mix here. And then you have your capital outlay and your debt service. This is the one that has the debt service. And I'll show you what the next debt service is. So this is our debt service. So you can see where our debt service in 22-23 was stable. And then we paid off some debt here in 2024. We paid off another in 2025. And that'll continue on until 2029 when we pay off another. I think it's the Bank of America one, right? Comes off. But check out these interest rates, right? We haven't seen those in a while, right? I mean,
Oh, boy.
those are the good old days, right? But anyway, so really that's what fluctuates a lot of this. But debt service is the same, but the next benefit we get from that is when we pay off another line of debt service. So again, this fund. When we look at what we're doing capital wise. Now, here's what I want to show you. Let's look at our net position. Our net position we look at and we say, okay, our net position is at 144 days of cash. We're going to drop that down to about 54. I'm comfortable with doing that. We'll rebuild that later on. But think about it. The water fund always has the general fund as a backstop. Do you know what I mean? No one's going unpaid or anything like that. We just want to, what we're trying to look at is okay, we have capital needs here that we need to address this year. Let's let the water department still do that, still carry themselves, but they're not going, I think you can only go 7 days without water and then but at the end of the day, yes, you can only last 7 days without water. So listen, we're at 54 days, okay, of operating expenses where if people all leave, we can still pay staff and things like that for a total of 54 days, including debt service and all that jazz.
And it probably goes up next year, right? Yeah, it will
Yes.
go. This is
Yep.
probably the low point,
Yes.
and then next year.
Yep. This is the low point. We're going to be doing some capital here, but this is definitely the low point. But we're comfortable.
Right.
And again, I don't think we'll hit there. And the reason why is we do budget for emergencies within the water fund.
Mhm.
But as we invest more in capital each year, the things that we're worried about breaking are not going to break.
Right.
So we usually carry cash over year because we don't use all the renewals and replacements. Kind of the, oh my God fund that we have, we keep a couple $100,000 in there, 300,000. We don't always get to that. So that's a good thing because we're investing in the capital. So if we didn't and the asset tank breaks, then you're 300,000 on the spot. So as we keep on investing, we can slowly start lowering it, but money falls and those days of cash on hand does increase.
Right.
And this is no surprise. This
No.
was in your 5-year forecast. We knew there was going to be a low point, and that's this year. And then next year it starts to build back up
Yes.
again. So I am
Yes.
comfortable with
Yeah,
it.
exactly. So we're trying to knock out the capital here that just gets more expensive the later we kick the can down the road, right? So.
What do you anticipate the cost increase will be to the community in water?
Well, right now we're at 5%, right? So right now we had assumed that there would be a 5% rate increase. Think about it. If general inflation is at 3.7-ish, right? We're running it very tight and we're managing it very well. And we want our residents to keep on consuming, right?
Serving.
I'm sorry, conservative, sorry.
But it's the meters, I think,
Yeah,
is
yeah,
why.
yeah,
I mean,
meters,
and you can
it-
only, you don't want your lawns to die either.
No,
I
no,
mean,
no,
that's-
no.
So, that's costly to replace
No,
those. So
It is.
it's the meters and the irrigation that you can't turn off the sprinklers, otherwise everything dies. So
Yes, yes. No, that
Mhm.
that is very true. But I will tell you that a 5% increase, you remember back in the days, 3%, right? It was the new norm, right? I think we're at 5% now. And part of it too is the area that you're in. South Florida is extremely expensive. And so,
well, we had annual increases of 3% when we had no inflation. So now we have inflation of around 3%. So I think it makes sense that we
And-
have 5% annual increases.
Our water rates aren't high.
No, they're not.
In the region, if we go back, remember the
We're in the
Rafaela
middle.
studies, we're
We're
right
in
in
the
the
middle.
middle. We're not in the high side. And a lot of these communities now we're going to pop. So you're going to see Delray
Yes.
pop, Riviera Beach is going to pop because they had to fund
Yeah.
$200-300 million water plants.
right.
So their water rates are going to go.
Yeah.
So we're going to slowly start falling back to that lower third of rate
Definitely.
structure. So
Right.
we're
Definitely.
not charging too much.
No.
No. And
We're not.
not only that though, but obviously there's seasonality,
Right.
right? You know what I mean? And so when our great neighbors leave for the summer or whatever, we still have bills here to pay. Right. And so, yeah, there's definitely seasonality in everything here. And so this is just one of the other seasonal things. So that's what we had put. I think in our early forecast, it was at 8%. We were able to settle that back. And so this fund will be fine. We look at the sewer fund, kind of the same idea, right? But the sewer fund, here's the revenue. We said that we were going to go up 5% here with the rates, right? You can see that we're going to be pulling money. We're going to bring it back into the checking account appropriation from reserves. We're pulling it from our reserves, about $1.7 million, right? Because we know what that's going to be going for. I tried to look at, the grants. So our grant dollars went down. The reason why is because the good old days of ARPA are done, right? You remember when we got the ARPA funds? Well, that's done. We fully spent them all. And so no longer, but we are, thankfully, Peggy is getting us more money into this right here for our capital projects.
For the lift station.
It's right. Yeah. For the lift station projects, the sewer lining and lift station 2 improvement. So this right here, we're going to be spending $2.1 million on that. But anyway, expenses, the same idea. You'll notice that there's no labor in this one, right? Because the water fund has the labor that also checks out the lift stations, manages the lift stations. So there's that transfer. We kept that the same. Okay. But this fund, this fund, you can see where the fund balance is going to go. Look we're going to drop this down. Instead of having about 417 days cash, right? We're going to drop it down to about 125 days.
Mhm.
Okay, so as long, so
better.
that means no one can flush the toilet. If they don't flush your
Mhm.
toilet within 125 days, we'll be, but no. So, but anyway, so this right here, right, it's still a healthy net position. These right here are the projects that we're going to do. Obviously, that sewer lining is this fund's number one priority, right? And so, and that's what we're going to tackle, and that's what we're going to be successful at.
Mhm.
We should have a contract for your consideration July 17th. Yep.
Oh, good.
So
Yeah.
we'll be able to start moving that forward.
That's great.
So when you look at the last few pages, these right here are all the revenues for the general fund, discretionary sales tax, building, water, sewer total, right? So overall, to run the entire town, every fund, every department, right? It's almost $33 million for the year. Okay. And so these right here are all the sources of our revenue, right? When one fund needs to give money to another fund because of shared expenses, you can see that that's line 15, intra-governmental, right? Now, when I flip, this is the revenue. So that's why we call it source of funds. So when we have an expense, let me go to the uses of funds. This right here is the uses of funds. When we have an expense, we make sure that we match up the expense with the sources of funds. Where are we getting that money from? So that's what we look at. And so that's why you'll see $32 million here under total. Our next one is our expenditures, $32 million here. And this is what it's going for. And you can see where capital, look at line 24, capital is about $6.6 million, right? And you can see also, well, these right here are the services that your town provides. And you can see that public safety, public safety is the number one. And this is common throughout all municipalities, right? But you're a full service. Matter of fact, you're a concierge full service. Let's face it. And so now what we're doing this year, after we had successfully completed on time and under budget the fire department building behind you and standing that up, we're going to tackle these other things. And you know what? We're going to do it without taking on debt. We're going to do it by keeping our millage the same. And in later years, if property values don't come back at what we think they will be, then guess what? That extra reserve balance will be there to carry us through. And so that's the idea. Now, this is the most important part of what I do for you, but also as what one of your responsibilities here, right? So right now we're here, we look at a preliminary budget. I'll also present the same data to the FAB in June 25th, just to get some feedback, right? They may want to go line by line, whatever, that's fine. Then what we'll do is we have some hard deadlines that we have to hit statutorily. So July 15th, we will give the town a resolution which will set the maximum millage rate. So what that is that tells the state of Florida and the Florida Department of Revenue and the tax collector that we're not going to go above this. That way you can get that beautiful green and white and yellow piece of paper that says, hey, this is your proposed taxes. And then what we'll do in August, if needed, if we need more meetings, we can have that. If you change your mind and you're like, we've reviewed this, we want to make some changes here that affect the budget, we'll be able to plug those in August. In August, we'll have FRS changes. Hopefully we'll have insurance. We'll get a little bit clearer sign of what insurance, property insurance, health insurance, what those numbers are coming back. And then we'll land on these two dates here, September 2nd at 5:01. We'll present this to the public, and September 18th at 5:01. That'll be our second public hearing to when we potentially adopt a $32 million all-in budget, but you'll see all these numbers here on the bottom. So Let me go to the last page here. There's everyone there. Any questions? I know we hit a lot, but
Aside from statutory possible changes,
yes.
You could assume that we are recession and inflation proof. You could, I mean, if you're looking at it from a business,
Not like a funeral home or the waste
Right.
industry, but we're pretty close.
we're pretty
Yeah.
close.
I mean, 73% of your revenues coming in.
Oh, I agree.
Which is beautiful because those are the users, right? All of your residents use the services that are here. And that's why it's a proper mix, right?
Very nice, David.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, again, I think next year at this time, we're going to have some pictures of sewer lining, you know, which will be, they won't be as nice, but sewer lining and also some lift stations, mezzanine walks. But now what we're doing now is we're reinvesting in the other assets. So this is preliminary. This is subject to change. We'll find out as we get more clarity. Madam.
Any other questions for David?
Oh, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much
Oh,
for your
thank you, David.
presentation. Very thorough,
Yes.
good explanation. Thank you very much. Great job. Great job, David. Thank you.
You never disappoint us.
No, that's right.
Put that on the dog.
Okay, moving on to public comments. Any public comments? Okay, come on.
Greg Bobby, 1092 Bellito Drive. Am I allowed to ask two comments just on the budget
Sure.
questions? Okay, great. For you, David, or for Marshall, first of all, that was really impressive. I remember when Commissioner or Vice Mayor Stern and I started in the FAB and the budget process was completely different. This is things are really strong. It looks good. First question, known unknowns. I remember in the past we had union employees, we would renegotiate those contracts. When's the next one coming up?
26, and to jump into a later comment, I'll just do it now. You'll probably have 2 in 26. The fire department has requested that they begin that process, working with the labor attorney. We'll be bringing a resolution to you for consideration. So we'll have both of them probably in 26.
Right. Next question. What's sort of the framework on where you set the not to exceed millage rate above the current millage rate? Because you got to give yourself some operating room, right? Just in case something changes. Thank you.
Yes, you know, as we said, our goal 3+ years ago was to not have this constant swing of millage. In the good years, we'll set this millage here based on our operating expenses. It was a multi-year plan because if you recall, our millage also included transfers to the water fund, right? So we were trying to balance that, hey, eventually that water fund needs to be self-sustaining, right? And so we'll need rates there. Eventually debt service on the water fund will drop off, which will give that fund more power or to stand on its own. And so when we looked at it, we looked at, oh, and then by the way, in between all this, let's just build a fire station. And by the way, we're going to balance 2 fire departments. We're going to have Delray while we also have ours while we do that transition. So when we look at all of our expenses, but the fourth thing that the commission wanted and that we were successful doing is we like to do annual 5-year forecasts. We want to see, hey, when does this not work at holding the millage? And obviously, there's a very strong correlation with how property values increase or decrease. And so we kind of put all that together, and we then knew if the millage was going to be set for this, and we knew that the property values were going to come in at this, how much capital work we're going to need to do. Those things there are what contribute to us setting the millage. And so, you know, the 3.5875 works for now. It works for probably the next 3. I think we did our 5-year forecast. It works in that time period. But beyond that, we'll have to relook at that. So.
And again,
Put it a different way. There's a lot less uncertainty because of the 5-year forecasting,
Yeah.
maybe than when you were more involved. And, he's putting in more conservative assumptions for cost increases. And we still have, appropriations, we're transferring to reserves. So, by the time, there's so much conservatism built in there, and there's a lot more certainty because we're doing a lot longer forecasting, that we feel very comfortable with keeping it steady. I mean, we know what 73% of the revenues is going to come in at, because we got the, so that's like you said, it's like the big portion of it. So.
Good content, but my question was not clear. I apologize. I asked a very poor question. You have the millage rate you're planning. You have to give the state a not to exceed millage rate. You're not going to give them the current millage rate because that doesn't give you any.
Yeah, we will.
Well,
We will.
you're gonna
Yes,
actually
that's
give
what I'm
them the-
saying. There's so much
Wow.
conservatism. There's so much more certainty than we have in the
Have
past.
we done that in the past?
Yes, we did that last year.
years, we just said
Yes.
that's our commitment, so we're not going past. it.
Yeah, yeah,
Really impressive.
yeah. We feel that confident about what the budget exercise is. And there's, $500,000 clearly, conservatism, plus all the other contingencies, plus he's putting conservative assumptions for the increase in the insurance and all that kind of stuff. So, and we know what 73% of the revenues are coming in at. That's a for certain. So.
What was really impressive, and Dave and I, hit our head against the wall a couple of times, that we're going to be able to do all of this capital. I didn't think we were going to be able to do it. I thought we may have to borrow money or put it off or space it. We're going to get it done. Like, we have the ability to get it done without jeopardizing our financial health and net position. So, that's really impressive that, we're sticking to our guns, to that forecast, to that 5-year forecast. It's really working because we're working that plan, right? So it's really delivering, and it's great.
And plus we have good amount in reserves. We did, we know we have the budget stabilization, so that we have the disaster recovery. And then on top of that, we still have close to $3 million in unassigned. So we feel very confident in the budget. So.
There would be things that, as Marshall said, when we start with the union talks, right, in 26, well, that's going to affect us for 27 and beyond. And we'll see. But that's part of management's plan, right, is to sit there and go, well, all right, what else do we have to maneuver around to keep that and keep that safety? But again, it's Highland Beach is just an exceptional, extraordinary 3 miles that we see very few communities achieve all this success, and they're doing it on their own. So it's fascinating.
Any other public comments? No? Okay, moving on to ordinances. There are none. Consent agenda. Any discussion on the minutes that were in there? If none, we could have a motion for the consent agenda.
Yes, a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second, yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving on to the next item, update on Milani Park.
Yeah, I just wanted to, for potentially folks in the public that haven't seen it, June 3rd, the county commission in its matters of the public had a discussion, a very thorough discussion of Milani Park, driven by the Milani family's public statement to revise or not do the park, changing of their position. So they made that case, which ensued a compelling argument by a handful of county commissioners that maybe it should be revisited. Now, before we get excited and, run, to Palm, West Palm, and let's see where this really goes, because we've tried in the past to no avail. So let's see if this holds and has traction. But I just wanted everyone to know that they are discussing or had discussed it on the 3rd. Again, if you do watch it at home, it's at minute 4 through 12, and then again at 47. So just note at minute 47, it picks back up for another 20 minutes of intrigue. And so they had this discussion. They're not banging on our doors, coming with offers or anything like that. But interestingly enough, the county is still talking about it. And I believe they concluded with to bring it back to the county commission. What? We'll have to see. I think us playing patience and just being open, we'll see what happens. But that's really just a real quick brief. I just don't want people to not know that the county had a conversation. I think we have a newspaper article that came out on yesterday by Mr. Diamond. It kind of went over this, presented, some of the commissioner statements. Maybe they're finally getting it. I don't know. So they're having that conversation. That's really all I have. I just want to make sure we're all being transparent that this is happening. We know it's happening. So if you call your town commissioner, they know it's happening, but they're not presenting or proposing or doing anything with us yet. So we'll wait and see. The article was in the Coastal Star before it was in the Post. Okay.
Yes, we appreciate the Coastal Star keeping us informed. You do a fabulous job. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to new business. Introduction of amendments to town's comprehensive plan based on evaluation and appraisal review.
All right, Ingrid.
Okay, well, good afternoon once again. So as indicated, this is an introduction, or I would say conceptual consideration of proposed amendments to the town's comprehensive plan. These amendments are based on an evaluation and appraisal review that was conducted by our planning consultant, Inspire Placemaking Collective. We refer to them as Inspire. I just wanted to state for the record that these proposed amendments were routed to the commission on June 4th. We wanted to give you ample time to review them. So I just want to make sure I indicated that. I provided a little bit of background on page 140 of your packets. So every 7 years, or at least once every 7 years, Florida statute requires every municipality to evaluate the comprehensive plan to make sure you're in compliance with Florida statutes. Statutes change and comprehensive plans sometimes need to be updated. And to also look at local conditions, because local conditions can also trigger amendments to the comprehensive plan. I also wanted the commission to be aware that our consultant actually did a kickoff meeting with staff. That was on December 9th of 2024. We had all the department heads present. I want to let you know that what you have before you, these documents, this was a collaborative effort. Various town departments came together to come up with a lot of this information. Now, regarding the town comprehensive plan, it's always been available on the town website. It's under the building department page. And then we have a little tab that says planning and zoning. That's where the comprehensive plan is located and has always been there. So we have 9 elements in our comprehensive plan. I broke them all down for you on page 140. We have over 200 goals, objectives, and policies. And then we have a map series. So all of those have been amended. Just again, a little bit more backup. On December 19th of 2024, staff prepared a letter to the State Land Planning Agency, which is Florida Commerce, to let them know that, yes, we are going to go ahead and amend our comprehensive plan. Florida statute requires all municipalities to advise the State Land Planning Agency whether you're going to amend your comprehensive plan or not. So we let them know. On that same day, they responded back confirming the receipt of our notification letter and just gave us a friendly reminder that we have to transmit these amendments within 1 year of that initial notification date, which is December 19th, it would be 2025. So what do the amendments include? We have a new data analysis section. The town's current comprehensive plan has no data and analysis. So now we have a data analysis section, which the consultant advised me that's now a requirement. I came from larger municipalities, and larger municipalities always have a data and analysis, or they used to call it data inventory and analysis. Sorry. There's also changes to the map series. We have some maps in our current comprehensive plan that are from 1988. They were never updated. And then we have obviously the amendments to those goals, objectives, and policies. And I'm sure you all noticed in the goals, objectives, and policies where you see underlined text, that means it's a proposed additional language, right? That's underlined. The strike throughs are proposed deletions to current comprehensive plan or current goals, objectives, and policies. So we have a town ordinance process flow chart, which is on page 239 in your packets. When you look at that flow chart, it tells you that any ordinance, and these are amendments to the comprehensive plan, they are via an ordinance, that they have to have the introduction with the commission, which is why we're here. In that ordinance flow chart, it says that the commission at the introduction will approve hopefully, to your desire, to conceptually approve the documents that are before you. And based on that conceptual approval, we didn't have the consultant here today. But I wanted to inform the commission that if you all do give the conceptual approval, the next step is that these amendments will go to the planning board, which is our local planning agency. And then once the planning board gives a recommendation, the amendments will come back to the commission in a transmittal hearing. If you approve the transmittal of the amendments to the state land planning agency, and there's other reviewing agencies, other state agencies that review it, then staff will transmit that. And then we will get an ORC report, which is an objections, recommendation, and comments report from the state within 60 days. Staff, along with our consultant, will address any objections and comments. And then the amendments will come back to the commission for an adoption hearing. So the consultant will present all these proposed amendments at the planning board hearing, as well as both hearings for the commission, both your transmittal hearing and the adoption hearing. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. I'm more than happy to address any questions. We've been obviously working with the consultant for 6 months on this, going through various revisions and so on and so forth. So.
I have a comment.
Sure.
I thought it was a great report. I'm not sure how many people have read it, but I tell you what jumped out at me, Ingrid, was on page 14, the impacts on transportation. With everything, all the conversation about Milani and everything else that's happening, they make a statement that says, State Road A1A is the only roadway in Highland Beach with the adopted level of services and projected to maintain this level of service through 2045. Transportation plays a critical role in shaping new residents of Highland Beach that live there, work, and enjoy the community. The town's transportation system is essential for supporting economic growth. I'll tell you why it jumped out. We see safety being an issue in A1A right now. I see a petition going out from Beachfront Condo Association to 3 different communities. And we hear the debate that's going on with the county commissioners. But I think if anyone that would read the report and really understand what they're projecting in the future, any additional traffic on A1A would not be considered a positive. And that's why I thought this report, I don't know how many have read it in detail, but in reading it, I said, I wish I had read this many months ago before I became a commissioner, because I'd have a lot more information. They did an outstanding job in putting this together. And again, thank you.
I guess one thing that strikes me is I kind of feel like the structure is for maybe a typical larger municipality. Like I feel like we have a lot of, we're very just narrow focused, our community here. And our median age is 70. And I feel like the structure of this report is it more typical, more useful for like a larger municipality than, because I kind of, am I reading that right? Like, I feel like we're kind of, our special town is kind of being into this structured report that
structure is somewhat dictated by the legislator. All the stuff you got to do and how you do it and lay it out is it's a best management practice look. I know when I went through, I did a lot of strike through to reduce some of the stuff we had a lot of fluff, if you will.
Right.
Stuff that we weren't really, that really didn't apply, that was in there. Ingrid and I looked at each other like, I don't know how that got in there, but it's been in there since, the 90s. So
it's hard to read. Yeah.
I think it'll get better when we get through and we can start taking and cleaning it up. But a lot of it is prescribed and how you have to have these
Right.
things.
Yeah, like I kind of read it thinking this is like very boilerplate,
Mhm.
and I don't know how beneficial it really is to, Highland Beach. I had a hard time reading it. I mean, I thought some of the statistics were really interesting,
I have
like,
a question, Mayor. Do you feel in David's report, which was outstanding,
yeah,
that he put together, did you see a parallel between the report that they've done and exactly what the outcome of David's budget report is right now? Because as I read the information, I felt the balloon was the same, but some of the balloons are a lot larger. But as they started actually reviewing the different structural changes in different as they looked at Highland Beach, it seemed to match what David was putting together, whether it was pricing, and that's the way I viewed it. Yes, you could apply this to a larger organization, but usually the basics are usually the same, but the balloon changes inside. So that's where I said, wow, was it worthwhile reading the report? The answer is yes. Is it a discussion piece? I agree with you amongst in a meeting would be, but I thought it was something that it gave information that otherwise is not known by many. Not to say it shouldn't be applied to a larger group.
Yeah, I would agree that there were a lot of references in here to affordable housing,
Right.
for example.
Mhm.
And that seemed to pop out as something in relation to this kind of a town and what
Right.
it would be. So that was a question, I thought. And then I had another question when I read this as it relates to beach renourishment. And maybe you can just remind us of the fact that based on public beach and amount of space, what would this town be entitled to apply for government paid beach nourishment?
Yeah, I think we have some policies that talk about it, but remember that beach feasibility study that was done, I think it was last year, 2024. The consultant gave, proposed two projects, right? Like a dune toe repair and beach renourishment, but the commission, didn't want to move forward with that. Basically, the direction that you gave or the consensus was really to give, if you remember, there was like a whole property assessment, right? Site specific at the back. You wanted the Natural Resource Preservation Advisory Board to really educate residents about what the current situation is of their.
No,
right,
I understand that. I'm talking about from a government cost. For example, if and when Milani Park takes place and that becomes public beach, how much are we entitled to? Are we entitled to government paid beach nourishment? At what kind of mileage within Highland Beach?
I don't know that would be in the goals, objectives, or policies.
So how that works, there's a minimum number of parking, so that's, careful. But I think you have to have 50 parking spots, maybe a little bit more. Well, I'll double check with the county. And they only pay for the public beach and then like 1,200 feet in each direction. So it's not like it's a boon for that concept, because that may change your mind if all of a sudden we had a public beach, they do all 3 miles. That would be a game changer in our conversations. But it's just that, and then 1,200 feet each direction. And that's basically all they'll do. But in order to even pre-qualify for that, it has to have 2 restrooms and a certain number of parking spots to get those dollars. And you got to do some other submittals and you got to match grant dollars. So it's not like they just throw money at it. You have to do it part of a bigger project. So they would pay, 7%, 6% of a $20 million renourishment. Okay. That's, at least it's 6% less. How are we going to pay for the rest when it's all private property? We have to get each property owner to pay. It's going to be a little bit trickier.
Thanks for clarifying.
I mean, I'd be in favor. I mean, I don't know, like I guess my own personal preference is to collapse this down. To me, it's too lengthy. I don't know, how many people would actually read it and make it a little bit more focused for Highland Beach. I don't know. I don't know if
I know why I work for you guys. I said the same thing to Ingrid, and she's like, well, we got to be careful because we're obligated to make a whole host of statements on all of these topics. We can't just Because I did the same thing. We're never gonna do that. I was like, get rid of mobile homes. Why the heck are we talking about that? Well,
Can't
the
do
state
that.
wants you to
Yeah, you
pay
can't
attention
take
of it.
that out.
But so I was, brought down a little bit that we do have to meet all of these random statutes that apply to the comp plan.
So I guess a suggestion I would have, and maybe for us to discuss, is can you take another pass at it about condensing it even further while still meeting the statutory requirements so that it's,
That is what our consultant did.
Oh.
Right? So we have the consultant, right, they're looking,
You're looking at it. It's
you have, this is the state statute, which tells you what has to be in each element. So they're looking at this, it's very tedious, which is why we brought on the consultant. Looking at the statute and they're looking at our goals, objectives, and policies. Okay, this reference to 9J5 is no longer applicable, but let's add this particular. So this is what they've done. This is why we brought them on to make sure that we're now in compliance. If I may ask, so you say you're concerned maybe about the structure. Is it specifically the goals, objectives, and policies, or is it also that and the data and analysis? Or I'm just curious where you find that frustration with.
so I love the charts. I love the charts. It's the
goals. Strike and underline?
all the verbiage around things that don't really apply to us. Is the general concept that I'm trying to convey. I don't know, maybe I might be the only one of the five of us that feels that way, but I found it very difficult to read. I don't know that any other resident would ever read.
So what we could do is when you kind of make a casual motion to move this to the planning board, ask the planning board to see if they can't condense and eliminate or reduce language and put that task to them to see if they have a similar view and could take it down a little bit.
Or can we add like a 1-page like abstract or something? I don't know what, our own little variation to this that has maybe some of the key things on like a summary, a very brief summary, and then you would have the rest of it that complies with everything. I don't know. That's just a suggestion.
I mean,
If we could
you could maybe do an executive summary
An
on
executive
on the
summary.
data and analysis.
Yes.
But again, the goals, objectives, and policies are really dictated by the statute. Again, every element has to have certain policies.
So
has to,
let's follow that.
yeah,
Yeah.
Right. You can look at any comprehensive plan. They're going to look very similar.
exactly the same. I was going to say
And
that as well.
yeah, because even the cities I represent, it's a big range in size. They look very much the same.
Yes.
It's just the state really ties your hands. And
Yes.
I agree. I went through everything too. Ingrid and I kind of went back and forth. I'm like, why do we have this? This doesn't make any sense. It's like, oh, well, the consultant says this statute was changed. Oh, okay. I mean, but I agree with you. It doesn't seem to make sense, but this is what the state requires.
Well, if we want to, I guess, I don't know, I don't know if do we want this to live as a document that the only sole purpose is to satisfy these requirements? Or do we want to make this a more usable result that has an executive summary that is maybe a little bit
Well,
more user friendly?
I like that idea. Maybe a summary. I mean, no one's going to sit down and read, no, I shouldn't
Right,
say no one,
right.
but it's unlikely, 94
Right.
pages. I found it, I like the information, I like the clarity, the comparisons, interesting. But it is 94 pages.
Yeah.
So perhaps we can discuss today or another time, what is the usage?
Right.
Who's going to see it?
Right.
What is the need? So if it's for a new resident, a current resident, I mean, this tells a nice story, and it compares housing costs to other areas, even the mean income. I think those types of things would be interesting. The housing stock, certainly I agree with the charts. I found that very interesting.
Right, right.
And informational. It's supposed to be. But who's going to use it? How are they
Right.
going to use it?
Right.
But in any event, even if we keep this something like, 84 to 94 pages, I think a summary of what the salient information that we want to portray, and like you said, the feeling of the town, the
Mhm.
specialty of the town.
Yeah.
The kind of services that is so unique to Highland Beach. I'd like to see that right at the beginning. like,
Right.
easy-
In reading it-
a good lead
Did
paragraph.
you find it helpful in any way in reading the entire report?
Yes.
That's some
Yeah. I mean, that's,
information.
Yes, we did.
Oh, yeah.
that's the, I found it helpful. And I agree with the mayor. Does it apply specifically to a town our size? But did I find it helpful as far as additional information? I wouldn't expect this to go out to 4,000 residents. I mean, this is something that I think behind closed doors is able to bring the conversation that we're having. Are there specific points in here that we would actually say, these 5 points is something that we should look at? Or would we negate the entire presentation? I felt a lot of information in there. I agree with you, man. There's a lot of stuff.
You got a lot of crossouts too, so be few pages.
Yeah, no question.
Few pages.
If I can just add, there were some inquiries about, well, when do we use this? As a planner, I mean, we are a small town, but I'm trying to recall as you all were talking, because I know I've referenced different compliant policies. I believe it was possibly for the sea turtle ordinance, because I think we had some policies like with environment, or maybe I think there's a reference to sea turtle. So when that came before the commission, I go back to the comprehensive plan and reference, well, policy such and such helps to justify or justifies a particular project, or there's a lot of, some consistency between our goals, objectives, and policies in your strategic priorities plan. So if there is a connection and we're moving forward with a project on the strategic priorities plan, you can bet that I'm going to reference whatever goal, objective, and policy, again, justifies it. So as planners, we do reference the comprehensive plan quite a bit. Again, this is a smaller town. We don't have commercial development. We don't have industrial development. But I know since I've been here in 5 years, I've gone to the comprehensive plan, documented in my staff report when it is applicable. So again, this is I like to look at this is the blueprint. This is the vision of the town in a very general sense, right? Goals, general, objectives, a little bit less general than policies. So
When I've been giving a document like that, I usually would form a 5-person committee behind closed doors and roundtable it. And we would take it apart. It's very difficult for one person to assess all the information that's in there. But before I would even go to a planning board, I would actually have a roundtable with 5 people and actually go through the document, because there's so much that can be cut out, but there is so much that can be used. And then I would go to a planning board, but I'm not sure what the process would be in something like that.
Well, we do our strategic planning exercise, and I feel like that is very useful and very specific for, our town. And it has, I feel like our time is better spent on the strategic planning exercise. And then I guess we can look to see if there's any conflicts, between this comprehensive plan and the strategic. I mean, did anyone see any conflicts between this? Like in all your work and looking at, have you seen any conflicts between the
I mean, there's some policies now about the density initiative. You all have it on your strategic priorities plan. So when that does ever come back before the commission, this does get adopted, I'm going to reference those policies that are in here where it should be something that the commission should address. And let me also say, when we have development applications come before the planning board for new single-family homes, or we have the special exceptions for accessory marine facilities or seawalls, those regulations typically say that it has to be in compliance with the land development regulations, the town code, and the comprehensive plan. Now, the comprehensive plan the comprehensive plan doesn't really get into the nitty-gritty of a dock. It's not going to be anything in there. But I will typically put in my staff reports, it's compliant with the comprehensive plan. Again, the comprehensive plan doesn't have the nuance. It's general. The nuance, the meat and potatoes, as I like to put it, is in the land development regulations. That's where the height is, the setbacks. This is, again, more general. But I know for sure in the site plan review, it says in our code, it has to be compliant with the comprehensive plan. So it's something that, I will document in my staff report. So you all aren't dealing with it on a daily basis, but as, planners do.
So maybe it's good to keep it as general as possible so that when we work on the more specific.
Well, I think that's the
item.
intent. I mean, it's, again, the details are in the land development regulations, in the zoning code and code.
And in our
ordinances.
strategic planning
This is-
exercise and,
It's a more broader take.
right.
Yeah.
I find that, it's almost kind of brings a smile to my face. So you have under projected population. So it's 2 paragraphs and a table. And there's one a sentence that says it all. Let me see. under the, I don't know where this sentence starts, very long sentence, but the salient part is, it is anticipated that an additional 23 people will move into the town over the next 20 years. Please see the carrying capacity analysis in the next section. So, it's only half a page.
And there you have the
Yes, and
density.
there you
difference,
have it.
right?
And
That's
there
the
you
density,
have
and
it.
it's
Yeah.
how it all comes back.
I love it. Okay.
I mean, I'm fine with sending it to the planning board at this
Yeah.
point in
Yeah.
time. I don't know that we need to spend a whole lot
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
time on this. I'd rather spend more time on strategic initiatives or specific ordinances or personally, that's my opinion. I don't know what everybody else
Yeah.
thinks.
Do we have to take
Make a motion.
a motion or?
Yeah, I think
These
we
are
need-
just amendments?
Just a quick motion,
Do
directing-
what?
directing the
The
Planning board to review.
comprehensive plan to the planning board for review.
Okay.
Yep.
I move to move this matter, the amendments to the town's comprehensive plan to the planning board.
Second it.
Do you want a roll call or, no, all in favor? Say
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Thank you
Okay.
very much. Good
Okay, and-
discussion. Commissioner Shadnowski, any comments? Any additional comments?
I think we've summarized all comments in the last 20 minutes. And I appreciate it, but thank you, Mayor.
Commissioner Goldberg, anything additional?
Well, I just think it's, just so terrific that we have such a robust financial
Yes.
presence and future. Great commission, great town, financially secure. We have great weather and that's it for today.
Excellent. Thank you. Commissioner Peters.
Yeah, I just want to thank David for that. That's a great presentation, and I'm always glad to see our town's in good shape and got plenty of reserves. Also, I just want to remind everybody, turtle season, in front of our condo, we got 15 nests already, so, which is quite a few. So, just want to remind everybody, lower those lights. That's it. Thank you. Have a good summer.
Good reminder.
Nothing additional. Thank you.
Nothing additionally from me. Town attorney.
No, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, town manager.
Just quickly said, Sendai, so the session is over. So they came to a budget. Now it goes to the governor's desk. He's got 2 weeks. But again, our appropriation. So thank you again to Peggy.
Yes, thank you.
I was talking with her late last night, so everything looks good. I'm really proud that we made it through the process. And one of the things I didn't say about the budget, we still have the fine grant and some of these appropriations. We'll time all that out when we get to the budget, but very excited that got done. There's some other late minute laws that'll be signed in that Len usually will do his thing, AstroTurf or artificial turf. We can't say anything about it. Stuff kind of one-off type stuff like that kind of had to wait to the last second. So we'll get our arms around that for you. Back to the county today is going through a process. I watched some of it this morning to pick their next administrator. Today, at some point in time, they may have selected. They did. Who did they select?
Ooh.
As
You
what
want to
you
repeat
thought?
it? You want to repeat it?
So yeah, Joe Abruzzo, the clerk comptroller, is now the county administrator. So I was watching all 4 of them. They all did a really good job. So kudos to my colleagues out there and congratulations to Mr. Abruzzo, our new county administrator. So we'll be hopefully building relationships and moving forward. So they did that quick. I guess they didn't have the second round of questioning. 2:45, so not too long ago. But again, back with the county, the transportation master planning, a lot of those conversations are going. They've selected a consultant. They should be awarding that, and that starts to get into, if you think the comprehensive plan is, nebulous and kind of goes on. You'll wait till you see a comprehensive county master plan and all of these incorporated plans. So that process is going to kind of figure out the future of the county for transportation. So that's forthcoming. And lastly, Madison, you made it a year. Congratulations. Didn't scare you away. So that's good news. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just a few more announcements. We have a few board vacancies, one for the Code Enforcement Board and one for the Natural Resources Preservation Advisory Board. Upcoming meetings and events, the town hall is closed in observance of Juneteenth on June 19th. The next Financial Advisory Board regular meeting is June 24th at 11 a.m. July 4th, the town hall is closed in observance of Independence Day. July 8th at 1 p.m. is the next special magistrate hearing. July 10th at 9:30 in the morning is the next planning board regular meeting. And our next meeting of the town commission is July 15th at 1:30. And there are no board action reports. And with that, we can adjourn. Thank you very much,
Thank you.
everyone.